is that you have a Jewish soul, a Jewish spirit. And inside the Pharisees, we've got the Shammai school that says, yes, that's right. Don't convert to Judaism. We don't want you to be converted to Judaism. Get lost, keep out. Okay. And you have the Hillel side who is saying, no, it's okay to convert to Judaism. You can convert just right now, just like that. But don't expect things of this world, Look, convert to Judaism for spiritual reasons instead. But they both kind of agree that you shouldn't convert to Judaism easily. It shouldn't be like the Sadducees say, where you just basically get circumcised and keep the law. That's all you have to do is get circumcised, keep the law. So the Essenes would be basically saying, yeah, sure, come and join us. That's the extreme Hillelites. Come and join us, live in our communes. By the way, we're completely impoverished. We have almost no water. You're going to have to work really hard to join us, but we welcome you. And nobody really wanted to go and join the Essenes. And I think to a certain extent, this movement that I'm representing here on this channel is a bit like the Essenes. Nobody wants to join it because it's actually too much hard work. People want the benefits without having to put in any of the effort. But you've got the Essenes who are welcoming everybody, but nobody wants to join them because it's super spiritual, super disciplined life. And then you've got the Zealots who nobody can join, and they hate non-Jews. They passionately hate them, and would sooner slit your throat if you're a non-Jew rather than allow you to become a Jew. And then you've got the balance between these two extremes of the Pharisees, where you've got the Shammai school who are kind of in cahoots a little bit in connection with the Zealots, and you've got the Hillel school who are in connection with the Essenes, and both of them are agreeing together that you don't have to convert to become a full Jew and get circumcised and keep all the laws in order to get the benefit of being a Jew and to get the salvation, because it's a religion and it's all about the religion. That's all that matters. And then you've got the Sadducees who are saying state law is still in position, is still in power. Get circumcised, keep the law, and you'll be under the state law. And that's what most people were going for. It's very comparable to the attraction that the state of Israel has today, where still, if you're a Jew, even if you're a convert to Judaism, if you're a full convert to Judaism, you can move to Israel and immediately get the benefits of state funding. You'll get an Aliyah grant when you move to Israel. They'll set you up with almost everything you need, as long as you're a Zionist and you a political Zionist, militant Zionist, and you subscribe to the secular Israeli laws, just like the Sadducees were. Then you'll be welcome in Israel as a citizen, and you can get everything you want as long as you're prepared to work hard. And it's not actually a very easy life, because the benefits you get are very little, very difficult to get, and you will be expected to work as soon as you arrive. So that is basically how it was then too, when the Sadducees were in control. This was the end of the state. The state was coming to an end. It was winding down. The Sadducees were in control. And the Pharisees were saying, the state will never wind down. It'll always continue. It's a religious thing. And that's really where Paul is coming from. So you've got the context now. This is the context you need to understand Paul. And you'll probably be starting to see immediately that Paul is not anything new when it comes to the Pharisees. He's saying to you, to people who are interested in coming to become citizens of the state, that yes, it's wonderful that you are very interested in our religion. And by the way, it is a religion. It is not to be regarded as a state system. If you want to come over and become citizens of this particular state and get benefits, then you've missed the whole point. What's on offer to you is something much greater than that, and much greater than just a little bit of cash in this world. What's on offer to you is eternal salvation, an eternal soul. And by the way, if you are interested in only the state law, I've got some bad news for you. That's what Paul is saying. And this is the Pharisee message too. Because the state law, which was in place, says that anyone, no matter how righteous they were, no matter how good their lives, no matter how perfect they were according to the law, from birth until death, if they did everything perfectly as upright citizens entirely, all the way through, if once they had died, their bodies were hung on a tree by a Roman, they were accursed and were going to burn in Gehenna. That's the state law. That the state would not respect such a person would be shunned, sneered at, shunned by the state. The Sadducees would say, no, that's it. The law is the law. That person is accursed. No respect for that person. There's no point in doing a memorial service for that person. That person is burning and they have no salvation. And that was the state law. And the Romans realized this is really great. They utilized this law in order to manipulate the society of the Jewish state into doing the Romans' bidding. Because all the Roman had to do was to threaten to hang your dead body on a tree and you were accursed. Now, zealots couldn't care less because they didn't really believe in the religion anyway. They were not zealous for the religion. They were zealous for a state as far-right extremist ultra-nationalists who were really worshipping their own race. And they didn't care what Romans did to their bodies. It wasn't important. If they hung someone on a tree, that made a difference. But if Romans hung someone on a tree, it made no difference. Hence, the zealots were hung on trees left, right, and center, and the whole state of Israel were very, very concerned about that. They were shunning them, but as far as the zealot brotherhood themselves were concerned, it didn't bother them because these were non-Jews hanging them on trees, and that didn't have any effect on them. Only Jews have the power to hang someone on a tree and accurse their body. That's the way the zealots were. That's their interpretation of the law. But that was a very fringe interpretation of the law. Most people didn't have that zealot position. They didn't have this ultra-nationalist position that the zealots had. Most people were terrified of having their bodies hung on a tree because it meant that everything that they had strived for, everything that they had worked for their entire lives was wasted if the Romans decided to hang their dead body on a tree. You didn't have to be hung to death. You were stoned to death, usually. That was the usual method, to be stoned to death and then hung on a tree. But you could be just crucified immediately and hung on the tree immediately. That was also possible. And so people were terrified of that. And then along comes Jesus of Nazareth. And he's hung on a tree. And the state position and the Sadducee position is, don't mourn this man. He's a sinner. He's a wicked man. It didn't matter how good he was in his life. He has been hung on a tree. Therefore, he is accursed. But then 3 days later, he rises from the dead. And therefore, kind of slaps in the face the Sadducee position. It's like, wow, the Sadducee position is now worthless. What good is your law if somebody who's accursed has the power to come back to life again? Now, from the Pharisee position, says, well, this just proves one thing, that the state law is really unimportant. It's all about God's law, and it's all about religion anyway. And by rising from the dead, he's showing a few things. Number one, that he was truly righteous, because no one can rise from, but just you should know, first of all, caveat here, from the Pharisee position, people rise from the dead all the time. Okay, but nobody is raised from the dead unless they are righteous. Okay, unless they are righteous. If somebody is raised from the dead, it proves that they were righteous. So, by being raised from the dead, this is not a problem from the Pharisees' point of view. They believe in the resurrection of the dead. This is completely easy, totally no problem. And it therefore proves that everything Jesus said was true, and he was a righteous person. And it also proves that the Sadducees' focus on the state law as being the constitution in place is the wrong way of approaching God's law. It's bogus. It's false. That's not the right way to approach God's law. Because being raised from the dead proves that the Sadducee position is completely wrong. The Zealots would have also used this to their advantage, because remember, they also believe that only if a Jew hangs you on the tree, you are condemned. But if the Romans do so, you're not condemned. However, the Zealots had a connection to Beit Shammai, who were implicitly involved in the trial of Jesus of Nazareth and handing him over to the Romans. So both the Sadducee position and the Zealot position is destroyed. Because from the Zealots' position, Beit Shammai had the authority to do so. In fact, the Zealots would have regarded Jesus of Nazareth as something like a friend of the Romans, a collaborator, because he said, pay your taxes unto Caesar. Instant enemy of the Zealots here. So they would have been supporting the Shammai decision to hand him over. And by the Zealot law, if he's hung on the tree, therefore he's accursed from the Zealot's position, the Zealot's point of view. And from the Sadducee point of view, he's accursed because that's what it says in the Constitution, and there is no Mishnaic interpretation about Jewish hands, Shmuish hands, who cares? As long as he's hung on the tree, that's what it says in the law. The Romans hung on the tree, therefore he's accursed. But then 3 days later, he rises from the dead. The Zealots are destroyed. The Sadducees are destroyed. And who wins? Only the Pharisees and their Essenes. You say it was never about state. It was always about religion. It was never about state law. So when Paul is condemning the law and saying how Jesus of Nazareth has basically proven the law wrong or abolished the law, what he's talking about is the legal system. The legal system has been abolished and been proven wrong. What is true is not a legal system. It's a religion which is true. That's what Paul is saying again and again. And he's saying you don't have to get circumcised and keep all the law in order to become somebody who gets a benefit from this religion. If you want to go down the path of getting that legal system, then okay, look, all that's waiting for you is death, because under that legal system, all that anybody has to do is hang your body on a tree and you're accursed. But he knows that he's speaking to some people who couldn't care less about what's going to happen to them after they die, because they don't care. All they want is a little bit of money. right now. A little bit of social security, a little bit of benefits. That's all they want. A passport. So that's who Paul is talking to. Now, there's another, as I said at the beginning of this, I said there are two ways of approaching it. And I've explained one way, which is the legalistic way completely. But the other way is this.